VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
Certainly glad to have you with us as we embark upon this news roundup and comment, what we always aim to get to on Fridays. In for Jim Schneider, I am Dalton Windsor with grateful heart for Sister Sandy for all she's been doing in gathering stories from this past week. And as always, there are many, thanks to the entire VCY team here, including Brother Dennis in Master Control. And, it takes a lot of us, and I said this earlier covering our morning report for Jim this morning, how Fridays, everybody, there's an excitement, of course, that comes with Friday, and for us, we look back at the week the week of radio ministry that we were allowed to have. We look at a weekend in front of us yet, still to go for a wonderful weekend of programming on the network, and then, of course, the Lord's Day on Sunday and special programming that we have there. And so 24/7, the good news of Jesus Christ in some ways is going out, and that is certainly what we are most happy about as we come to the conclusion of a broadcast work week here, but then also preparing for the weekend, and there's plenty to get ready for that. And we do have a Crosstalk Best of the Week, and I'm going to let Jim, of course, and the producers of Crosstalk be making those decisions as to what we will call Best of the Week, because as I look back at the programs that Jim has been hosting, there has been, well, as always, but, and I get to see behind the sounds here, I get to see the things that go on, and there's much more that I don't see that I know that, Jim puts into this program each and every day, and praying for this program and the guests that come in, and just for God to lead in helping us to get out the news that is out there, most importantly, that which is the good news of Jesus Christ. But we'll find out what tomorrow's Best of the Week will be, that broadcasting at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central Time on the VCY America Network. Yesterday's program, the battle for America's soul, was discussed. That's what we discussed on the show yesterday, the battle for the soul of our nation. And then on Wednesday, we were joined by Brother Matt Staver from Liberty Counsel. A lot of things going on there. Jim hosted a program called What in the World? We have those once or twice a year, I think, when when you're really inundated with news programs, and some of the things that that blow our minds, and it leaves you saying, "What in the world?" We had that earlier this week. We had a very heartfelt program back on Monday when we were joined by the parents of Hannah Glass. It was a tribute show to Hannah Glass. One life lived, many lives changed. All of these programs are available on demand, meaning whenever you demand to listen to it, you can, at crosstalkamerica.com, crosstalkamerica.com. And can I tell you, don't just keep it for yourself. Don't be that way. Please share these programs. They're made in such a way, you go to our website, you can, of course, listen to them, you can download them for yourself, but then also you can share them with others. We do still, in-house, send out CDs of the programs. I know that's kind of old school for some of us these days, and I, of course, was around when that was brand new technology, as were many of you. And then some of you are saying, CDs, what century are you from? I was born back in the 1900s, okay? So yes, I am part of that CD generation. But we do still send those out that way. Maybe you know someone who would benefit from one of these programs, and they still use CDs. We can get you one of those. But obviously, it's quick. And now when you go to the website, crosstalkamerica.com, you say, I don't have a computer. Do you have a library in your town? People go to their libraries, and they'll ask someone to help them to listen to the programs at the city library. The website, crosstalkamerica.com, crosstalkamerica.com, the programs from this week and, well, all this year are archived there where you can listen back. We had better get to some of these headlines. And in this first segment, Crosstalk is made up of segments, right? And so in this first segment, I'm going to hopefully wrap up everything from this week's, the past election in this first segment. I don't want to spend the entire program on the New York election. And no offense to those of you listening in New York, but we have a lot of other things to talk about coast to coast. But clearly, leading in the news all this week is what so many are celebrating on the left of the aisle, and then so many are bemoaning on the right side of the political aisle, as reading here from Just the News on the top of the stack is how Republicans lost every major contest in Tuesday night's elections this week. It appears to be a clear indication of voter dissatisfaction with their governance in just the first year of a Donald Trump presidency. Democrats made a clean sweep of, well, not only what we have already know about in New York, but Virginia, their statewide races. They managed to pull the scandal-plagued Jay Jones over the line in the Attorney General's race. In New Jersey, Representative Mikey Sherrill defied the Republican momentum, keeping the state's blue streak alive there. Many are saying, it was just a blue wave on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the socialist Zohran Mamdani managed to overcome the bipartisan effort to rally behind former Governor Andrew Cuomo to, yes, become the next mayor of New York City. And then across the country, California voting, the voters there approving Proposition 50. Many big names in the Democratic Party, present and past, including the likes of Barack Obama and so many others out stumping for Prop 50, allowing the state of California to circumvent the independent redistricting process, a process that has been in effect in the state for nearly 2 decades. It approves a new congressional map that gives the Democrats a chance to gain up to 5 House seats in the 2026 midterm elections. And that's just story one from Just the News on the top of the stack here today. But following the clear sweep, the Democrats' sweep of key races on Tuesday night, Daily Caller reporting how Senate Majority Leader John Thune is saying that he expects Republicans to be laser-focused on affordability issues ahead of those 2026 midterm elections. Thune saying that while Democrats, their strong electoral performance should be taken with a grain of salt, given the poor GOP candidate quality in some of the races. The Republicans, the top takeaway should be crafting a, quote, winning message, end of quote, crafting a winning message over the next year. The majority leader saying that this means talking more about inflation, economic growth, jobs, and as Thune believes that Republicans are well positioned to win the debate in the eyes of the voters next year. In New York, Virginia, New Jersey, most voters naming the economy or the cost of living as their top issue, that according to many of the exit polling. It reminds me of an old saying, and I won't say the whole thing, but not that it's really horrible, but it says it's the economy. In every election, it's always going to be about the economy. And clearly, people are voicing their opinion. But we also have, my fellow Americans, we also have to mention this, because you can say who won, who lost. But voter turnout, always an issue. And that's something that I'm sure they've been looking at, and maybe we'll have some time if we have the statistics here, we'll certainly pass that on. But, where were the voters? In many cases, did everyone, in fact, get out the vote in these areas? You can blame, poor quality, if you will, of candidate, or, I hate, that sounds kind of harsh, but, lack of experience in some of these Republican candidates that were put up, whatever the case may be. But how important is each and every one of these elections? And yes, we're talking the national races right now, but hey, what about your school board races? What about your city council, your state election? Every election matters. And it's just it's a civic duty. And as Americans, I hope that you were able to get out the vote, and that you'll be at the next one and the next one after that and the next one, because the next one is the most important election in your lifetime. And that is truly the opinion. It's really more than just an opinion. It's just a fact. It's where we need to be. That's the position we need to take, that especially as we Christians that know Jesus Christ, that are trusting in the Lord and the principles from God's Word, that we have a voice. We have this voice and this vote. What do we do with it? And it doesn't mean that we hate one party and love the other. No, I can remember as a kid, at the end of the day, we were all Americans. We had our disputes across the aisle, but there was a time, even in my 50 years here, that at the end of the day, we would all still bow our heads, cover our hearts with our hands, say that Pledge of Allegiance together, and count our blessings to God, and be thankful for those who paid the ultimate price that we might know what freedom truly is. Next week, is Veterans Day. God willing, we'll have a special call-in program here on Crosstalk. So I said we would try to get all of this wrapped up in the first segment. I'm going to try really hard here, maybe have to carry just one or two more over, but the Gateway Pundit saying that the election of Zohran Mamdani as mayor of New York is not necessarily bad news if you're a real estate agent in states like Florida. Interest in new homes in Florida is already exploding just days after Mamdani was elected. Think about it. Folks who are saying, I am out of here. There's the news story. New York City Fire Commissioner Robert Tucker. He will leave his post next month. He announced his resignation the day after Zohran Mamdani was elected to be the city's next mayor. In a statement, he said he was going to allow the department to have an orderly transition. As Mamdani is set to be sworn in January 1, 2026, he said it's been an honor of a lifetime to serve as the 35th New York City Fire Commissioner. He gave thanks to Mayor Adams for his trust and confidence in his doing of the job. He says, we've empowered the brave men and women who keep our city safe, bringing fire-related deaths to a historic low. That's big news. New York City Fire Commissioner Robert Tucker announcing his resignation the day after Mamdani was elected to New York City's mayoral seat. So, and it's interesting how they bring up realtors in other states, because so many are saying that they're out of there. It is break time. We'll be right back on Crosstalk.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, president of the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, another heavy question. Is it true that some evolutionists actually claim that there's an evolutionary justification for rape?
Yes, indeed, Chris. As disgusting and far-fetched as it may sound, evolutionists claim that rape has its basis in evolutionary survival of the fittest. In evolution, the two main goals are survival and reproduction. That organism which can reproduce the most, pass its genes on to the greatest extent, is the one that's most fit. Thus, rape has its justification. If man is an evolved animal, this must be right for us too. But Chris, animal behavior should not be the model for human behavior. Humans were created in the image of God and are obliged to abide by His law. His design was one man for one woman for life, and that back to Genesis truth is the only one that will work.
For more information, visit our website at icr.org.
And back on Crosstalk, Friday News Roundup and Comment, just kind of wrapping up on this week's election, all of the things. Just a couple more quick comments. And, you know, there are even some, and we'll leave this to another program. Jim, of course, will have some other guests on, and we could talk more about this in the days ahead. But there are so many that are talking about the fact that, well, we will not stay in New York. And certainly, we don't wish that to be the case, but those who are there that know that great change is certainly coming, because it's been at the forefront of all that has been promised by this the newly elected Mamdani. But even some prophetic implications to this, when you start thinking about populations and certain parts of that population moving, and we know that there are certainly many Jews, many Jewish population there in Israel, and in New York, and people moving and going places, and so just something that maybe we could look at later on. That I'm thankful that God is in control. I'm thankful that His Word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto our path. Correct? And so we'll just continue to see what all is going to take place. One more mention on Prop 50 out California way. That Prop 50, of course, helping the Democrats to could help flip 5 congressional seats next year. Thanks to ballot drop boxes, mail-in ballots, ballot harvesting, and illegal aliens, voters approved Newsom's power grab to eliminate 5 GOP congressional seats through 2030. The 5 California Republicans targeted by the redistricting plan. Did you know? I mean, yes, people that have been watching this for years and longer than I have. These are the things that happen. To be fair, it happens on both sides of the aisle. But 5 California Republicans that were targeted by the redistricting plan include Representatives Doug LaMalfa, District 1, Kevin Kiley, District 3, David Valadio in District 22, Ken Calvert, District 41, and Darrell Issa in District 48. And President Trump has said this about Prop 50 and its passing in California. He said this on Truth Social. He said, the unconstitutional redistricting vote in California is a giant scam, and that the entire process, in particular the voting itself, is rigged. All mail-in ballots where the Republicans in that state are shut out is under very serious legal and criminal review. Stay tuned. That from President Donald Trump regarding what some say is all said and done, but we'll see what happens there as Prop 50, of course, having definitely passed earlier this week. Now, something else we need to get to today, government still shut down. Government still shut down. Well, let me ask you, if you don't go to work, if you didn't show up today, would you be paid? We have government workers who want to work, who need to work, and some of them are working, but yet without pay. Well, the Republicans trying a new strategy at ending the shutdown in the Senate, bipartisan negotiations to reopen the government appear to be making limited progress. This from the Daily Signal. Again, Senate Majority Leader John Thune of South Dakota recently speaking positively of an attempt to come to a deal on packaging together 3 bills in a minibus package to create momentum for a full reopening. According to Politico and The Hill, Democrat Senators Gary Peters of Michigan and Gene Shaheen of New Hampshire have been involved in these discussions. This mini package may be nearing completion, and that will be the vehicle for a partial reopening of the government, says Thune. Yesterday, Fox and Punchbowl News reported that Senate Republicans intend to bring a new funding package for a floor vote as early as today in an attempt to bring the multi-week log jam. Thune has also said that Congress will need a new funding extension with a later expiration date to buy time for finishing appropriations deals. Here is from CNN this week, a federal judge in Rhode Island saying yesterday, Thursday, that the Trump administration must fully cover food stamp benefits for tens of millions of Americans in November. U.S. District Judge John McConnell came just days after this order from this judge came days after the administration, in a response to an earlier order from him, said that it would provide only partial food stamp benefits for November by tapping into some $4.65 billion of a contingency fund maintained by the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as food stamps. But this judge said during a hastily called hearing that the government had not worked quickly enough to release the funds pursuant to the requirements of his earlier order, and that the government had acted, quote, arbitrarily and capriciously, end of quote, when it decided earlier this week that it would not provide the full benefits this month. McConnell said from his bench, people have gone without for too long, and not making payments to them for even another day is simply unacceptable. Well, sir, how about also for our government employees who are without pay? What about them too? All right, from Off the Press, more than 1,000 flights across the country were canceled as of this morning, Friday, as the Federal Aviation Administration and airlines look to deal with staffing shortages exacerbated by the ongoing shutdown. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announcing earlier this week that flight reductions were necessary to ensure safety amid the lapse in funding. The FAA on Thursday outlined the 40. Hello to all of my FFA friends and members and fans. I said FFA. No, I'm talking about the FAA on Thursday outlined the 40 major airports that see flights reduced by 4% as airports across the U.S. suffer from an increasing number of air traffic controller call-outs. These air traffic controllers are deemed necessary personnel and have missed out on at least 2 full paychecks since the shutdown began over a month ago. With reductions in place, American Airlines expects to cancel 220 flights per day. United will cut fewer than 200 trips. Delta will decrease by 170 flights, and Southwest plans to scrap roughly 120, according to the airlines. Western Journal, American military planners have drawn up a list of targets. We're shifting gears here, so we're going now from, we do want to mention this one, and we open the phone lines up. Maybe someone would like to certainly comment on this. American military planners have drawn up a list of targets to be attacked in Venezuela as soon as the president gives the order, according to a new report. We're talking about these drug boats, these drug cartels that are boating over their drugs to America. This report from ABC, which relied on sources it did not name, said that the list includes ports, airports, and other government-owned sites that are used by drug cartels. Trump has not indicated that he would not attack immediately, but this is a secret U.S. target list that has been leaked. And again, from ABC, who has been relying on sources that it is not naming, but how reportedly here Trump indicating that he would not attack immediately. So there's plenty more on this one, these drug boats. And I believe Sandy's even has included in here how there are so many people, not in America, but like the UN, who is saying that we just should not be doing this. What does it take for us to look at the larger problem and say these boats should not be coming, period? Stop the boats and we won't be having this issue. Because none of the reports are out there as to how many of our kids, how many people are killed from these drugs? So we have a twofold problem here. It's not just that, America is being told that we should not be conducting these strikes. People, the UN, you should not be doing this. Well, don't send your boats filled with drugs. Yesterday, the Senate voted down an effort to try and block President Donald Trump from conducting these strikes. The War Powers resolution introduced by Democratic Virginia Senator Tim Kaine failed to pass the upper chamber 51-49 just a day after Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth briefed top congressional members on the strikes. So they voted that one down. It was an effort to block him from doing these strikes. It's been voted down as of right now. The U.S. has conducted its 17th lethal strike against a suspected drug vessel, killing all three on board. That's from Pete Hegseth. He announced that on X overnight, saying that, as we've said before, vessel strikes on narco-terrorists will continue until the poisoning of the American people stops. The vessel was trafficking narcotics in the Caribbean and was struck in international waters. No U.S. forces were harmed. The three male narco-terrorists who were aboard the vessel were killed. At least 69 people have now been killed in strikes on vessels since September 2nd. Stop sending your boats. Stop sending your drugs. And we'll need to break here. We've got to get this one in. The Telegraph reporting Russia wanting to provide hypersonic missiles to Venezuela amid their frayed relations with the United States. The Kremlin claiming this Orchnik missile is impossible to intercept and can carry conventional and nuclear warheads. This Orchnik missile, translated as hazel tree, is capable of striking any target across the European continent in under an hour if launched from Russia or Belarus, according to Moscow. Vladimir Putin has insisted that the missiles are so mighty that using several of them in a strike with conventional warheads would be just as catastrophic as a nuclear attack. So, obviously, Venezuela is very troubled about what is being done to their drug boats. Obviously, America, a great majority of them, do not care if you're going to continue to send your drugs. And thus, that is what is being happening. Just a couple of statistics here. Coast Guard intercepted nearly 510,000 pounds of cocaine from October of 2024 through October 2025. It was the largest haul in the service's history, the Coast Guard setting a record for the annual amount of drugs that were seized at sea. There's a new sheriff in town, and we're doing things in new ways, and it's a shame that it's taken us this long. But you know what? America matters. Our kids matter. We'll be right back. When it comes to eternity, most people assume they will go to heaven thinking their good deeds will outweigh their bad, and God will allow them entrance. At most funerals, people will console one another saying they are in a better place. But how do you know that? How do you know if you will be in a better place? In the book, Are You Going to a Better Place?, author Richard Schmidt presents how you can know for sure that your sins are forgiven and you are on your way to heaven. See, after you die, there will be no negotiation with God. The scriptures provide the one way today that God's justice can be satisfied, guaranteeing that you will be in an eternal dwelling place with Him. One copy of this book is available for a donation of $10, 3 for $24, or 5 copies for a donation of $30. Call VCY America at 1-800-729-9829. Thank you for joining us. Friday News Roundup and comment. Visit us online at crosstalkamerica.com. crosstalkamerica.com. Listen to programs from the previous days this week or those in our archives anytime on demand at crosstalkamerica.com. Before the break, we, of course, talking about these drug boats, these drug cartels, and the Trump administration and their response to them. And we'll open up the phone lines in just a few moments here and let you sound off if you would like. Let you opine, as is famously said sometimes. But here's a troubling story, too, about these drugs. And this one's going to bring it very close to home for all of us. This is painful. You know, we thank God for our peacemakers, our law enforcement. Thank God for our soldiers. Again, I mentioned next week, God willing, we'll be honoring our veterans on Tuesday next week. This is a sad story here. You know, again, we love our law enforcement, the men and women who serve, first responders, firemen, all of that. But there's nothing worse than a bad cop, as I've heard it said so many times. Federal authorities just yesterday announcing indictments against 20 people, including 14 current or former Mississippi Delta law enforcement officers that allege the officers took bribes to provide safe passage to people they believed were drug traffickers. The years-long investigation swept across multiple counties in the Mississippi Delta region of Mississippi and Tennessee. Here we go. Now listen to this. 2 Mississippi sheriffs, Washington County Sheriff Milton Gaston and Humphreys County Sheriff Bruce Williams, were among those arrested. Some bribes, we're told, were as large as $20,000 and $37,000, as reported at a news conference. The indictments say law enforcement officers provided armed escort services on multiple occasions to an FBI agent posing as a member of a Mexican drug cartel. The indictments allege the officers understood they were helping to transport 25 kilograms, that's 55 pounds of cocaine, through Mississippi Delta counties and into Memphis. Some of the officers also provided escort services to protect the transportation of drug proceeds. Sheriff Gaston, Sheriff Williams are alleged to have received bribes in exchange for giving the operations their blessing, says one indictment. It also alleges that Gaston attempted to disguise the payments as campaign contributions, but did not report them as required by law. Again, that went out just yesterday from thefrank.com. 2 sheriffs, 12 officers arrested. Painful to read that one. That's one of our own. Those are our people that have, of course, all alleged as at this point, that have been involved in that. God help America. And I think about, you know, how many times we've heard, well, we need to drain the swamp, and certainly, yes, we do. But that swamp is so very deep. It's in Washington, D.C. It's in your backyard. And then we all have this human problem, this sin problem. And Jesus said it best. We read in John 3 that men love darkness rather than, yes, light. And it's a sin problem. It's a heart problem. And that is that heart change that we all must have take place in our life. Again, referring from John 3, and where Jesus talked about, unless a man be born again, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. And so as we read all of these bad stories from Venezuela to Mississippi, and maybe your backyard, something going on, we know the core of this. We know the root of this is sin. The good news we share is that, and it's a saying worthy of all acceptation, that Jesus Christ came into this world to save sinners. I one of those. We will open up the phone lines at 1-800-733-9829, 1-800-733-9829, just to see if anyone else has any opinion on maybe anything that we've talked about thus far. Now, this is good news, I think. More good news. The Daily Signal saying that murders, again, the human heart. Murder starts in the heart. Murders in Washington, D.C. are down 60% since President Trump's D.C. Safe and Beautiful Task Force set its sights on tackling the Capitol's crime problem. Murders are down 60%. Department of Housing and Urban Development Secretary Scott Turner joined the D.C. Safe and Beautiful Task Force briefing this past Monday, saying that for too long, our nation's capital, for too long, our nation's capital has been defined by lawlessness and disorder. Under President Trump's leadership, HUD is restoring safety and accountability in D.C. public housing, ensuring families can live with dignity and security. HUD is mentioned here as has been a partner in the crime crackdown efforts. National Guard troops will remain in the city until at least February of next year, that according to CNN. As a result of the task force and the emergency measures, crime in Washington is falling. Murders down more than 60%, robbery down more than 50%, carjacking down more than 70%, violent crime down 25%. All of this announced at that briefing earlier this week. Now, say what you want, whatever side of the aisle you are on, about our current administration and how you didn't vote for this. I would say, who wouldn't want to vote for statistics like this? That murder is down 60%, and he's not been in office a year. Let us set our partisanship aside and say the madness has got to stop. And certainly, again, as we've already stated here, we know that it's not a political issue. It's an issue. It's a sin issue. It's a heart issue. And how greatly we need to be praying. And how each one of us needs to examine our own hearts, our own lives, and look to the God in heaven who created us and sent his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, to come into this world. And yes, of course, that some of us might be saved. John 3:17, that some of us might be saved. And that we would not be a people that bites the hands, the glorious hand that has kept us for so long. Maxine is in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. Maxine, we thank you for calling Crosstalk today. What's on your mind?
Yes, two things. We hear about all the people that die from mass shootings, but we never hear enough about how many people die from drug overdoses with these illegal drugs that are coming in. And also about the food stamps. Maybe not a lot of people don't realize with food stamps you can buy coffee, candy, soda, gum. And so if we want to help people out with food stamps, we need to limit what they can purchase. They just should be able to purchase just healthy foods and what they really need.
Just the basic necessities is what you're saying.
That's right.
Great point.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for calling, Maxine in Wisconsin. Let's travel over to Toma, also in Wisconsin. Luther, thank you for calling in.
Yes, I just wanted to put this out that I think the Republicans are having such a rough time. Is the 74.4% of the U.S. watch free TV. They're not on cable or paid. And the left owns like almost 100% in it. So when you're looking at 74% of the people are getting brainwashed watching all this free TV. I gotta see where Republicans gotta get some free TV out there for them.
You're saying there's an indoctrination taking place?
It's just free TV. They own it all. The left almost, and you got 74% of the U.S. always every day watching free TV at home, and that's where you're getting all this bad information from the left. That's all I gotta say.
Luther, thanks.
It's real simple.
Yeah, thank you for calling, and I think they should listen to more radio myself.
Yes.
And especially this station. All right. Luther, thank you. Merle is in Tennessee. Hi, Merle. You're on Crosstalk.
Hey, Dalton. Can you imagine if we were at war with an adversary and we were losing 400,000 young men and women a year in that war? People would be screaming and hollering. But our adversaries, without firing a shot, are doing exactly that. And actually, this whole thing kind of hits home a little bit for me as far as, these drugs coming in and affecting youth and everything.
All right. Now, that number, are you just using that as an example, or is that an actual statistic you have, Merle?
That is a statistic that I heard, yes. So
something of 400,000 Americans die every year from some kind of overdose is what you're saying? That's right. And obviously, the argument could be made that this is happening by design. And yes, if we had a war and 400,000 people a year were dying from that, we would say we're losing. And yes, we certainly are. These are our kids. These are our future. And
exactly.
I say kids. It's not just the younger ones, but it's anyone and everyone that's dealing with all these illegal drugs that are just coming in and have been coming in, and finally it's just being brought to the surface. Praise God that we're able to know more. It's not a new problem, is it, Merle? No, it's not, brother. All right. Well, thank you for the call. We appreciate it. Before the break, we'll try to get one more in, going to West Virginia. Mary Jean calling Crosstalk. Hi, Mary Jean.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call. In afterthought about the voting issue, the voting that we just had should not be a surprise, because all of these areas were dark blue. You might as well call them dark blue states. So, and I'm sure that these elections were held with the free legal voting, illegal, unconstitutional voting of illegal immigrants, especially in New York City. But that doesn't mean that we should underthink, I don't know if that's the right term, underestimate. We should still be holding in strong support of the Republican issues and conservatives, because just because this issue of voting shouldn't be a surprise. That doesn't mean we should just take for granted that the next one will be a Republican success.
All right. Well, thank you for the call. It's break time, but we appreciate you calling in.
For the Worldview Report, I'm Brennan House. Our website's worldviewtube.com. I've been teaching through the book of Revelation, and this week I was in Revelation chapter 22. And what do we see there? The tree of life. That's in the New Jerusalem that's come down out of heaven and sits on the new earth. Of course, we know about the tree of life from Genesis, right? And so last night on my series on Revelation, I did a great comparison between Genesis and Revelation. Do you realize how much we need Genesis to understand Revelation? How much we need Revelation to understand Genesis? Do you realize many of the things prophesied in Genesis are being fulfilled throughout the scriptures, and then, of course, coming to their climax in Revelation? Is it then shocking that Satan is busy attacking the first book of the Bible and the last book of the Bible, that many churches today don't want to discuss biblical creation or Bible prophecy? If Satan's attacking it so hard, doesn't that tell you how important it is?
Already to our final segment. We have not mentioned anything on any of these stories. A couple more here, and then we'll go to Dennis in New York. PJ Media reporting Hamas took Omer Nutra, an Israeli-American hero. They took him captive October 7th, 2023. They murdered him while he was in captivity. Israel finally recovered his body along with the bodies of two other brave Israelis after these more than 2 years in the hands of Hamas. That took place on Monday. The body of the last remaining U.S. citizen who was among the 251 hostages that were taken by Hamas from Israel into Gaza in 2023 has been released. The Israel Defense Forces are reporting that Tuesday night. And then let me get Dennis on the air here from New York, and then we'll grab another story here on Iran that I know we certainly need to mention. By the way, if you want to join in the conversation, 1-800-733-9829. We may have time for one, maybe two more. 1-800-733-9829. Dennis in New York, the floor is yours. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I just want to say Trump's doing a great job so far, but I have two things about it. One, he's way too buddy-buddy with Israel. He claimed they're our greatest ally, but you have the USS Liberty, and he bombed Iran on Israel's behalf because they were committing genocide over there. And there's only salvation through the Catholic Church.
Okay, what is your comment about the Catholic Church?
There's only salvation through the Catholic Church. All the Christian denominations are false, besides the Catholic Church.
All right, well, that's totally off subject here today. We're not even talking about, haven't mentioned once anything on the Catholic Church, but you're, of course, welcome to share your opinion. Now, you did mention something on, Dennis, about Iran, and we do have in the headlines here, this is pretty interesting. I know Sandy wanted to get this one mentioned on the program. Iran declares no negotiations on our missile program, saying it's ready for war with Israel. Iran said last week, Saturday, that although it prepared to engage in talks about its nuclear ambitions, its missile program is not up for discussion. And Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said, "We are ready to talk to address concerns about our nuclear program. We emphasize the peaceful nature of our nuclear program. It is possible to reach a fair agreement, but Washington has set impossible and unacceptable preconditions." And Abbas added, "There will be no negotiations on our missile program. It would be foolish if one hands over his weapons." So, okay. Jeff is in Wisconsin. And hi, Jeff. Thanks for calling Crosstalk. You're on the air.
Hi. Your argument that the ends justify the means in regards to safety. I mean, if we want to live in a police state, police states are very safe. We could give up all of our guns and live in a police state, and the crime rate would just plummet.
Okay,
so I'm assuming you support ending the Second Amendment as well.
Okay, who said that the ends justify the means?
You did when you were trying to say that Trump putting a military on our streets has reduced the crime rate in Washington, D.C. Doesn't make what he did right.
You're talking about the story we read out of Washington, D.C., correct?
Right.
Okay. So you're saying the ends just don't justify the means, and you want to take that a little bit further. I understand that side of the argument. That could be hashed out some other way, but I'm glad you called in, Jeff. All right, thank you. Lincoln is in Mount Vernon, New York. Hi, Lincoln. You're on Crosstalk.
Yes, good day. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you for calling.
Great. I am not Democrat, nor am I Republican, nor am I left, nor right. I am for truth and justice. So, I'm not. So, I try to look at everything objectively. Now, and I'm also a student of politics. When I disagree with Trump's response, and I'm not a Trump hater neither, because I do support Trump in many ways.
Okay.
And I'd rather see him win than Kamala. However, I disagree with his approach towards Venezuela. And I think that what Trump is doing about the boats in Venezuela, it is a pretext for regime change in Venezuela. And we have to put things in historical context. This regime change started from 2003 ever since they've been trying to when they tried to overthrow Hugo Chavez and then his predecessor. And I think that a lot of people need to know the truth about this. When Hugo Chavez came in, he was not a dictator. He actually took Venezuela from abject poverty and raised the standard of living. He built houses for over 250,000 people. They don't tell you that. Hugo Chavez was for the poor. And I think we have to be very careful about some of what they tell us, even us who are into truth and justice, because on both sides, they can easily mislead us. And there are some gray areas. We can't just treat everything black and white.
All right, Lincoln.
Just like even.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the call, and certainly have to believe that those we have voted into these positions do know more than they're telling us, and they are ahead of the curve many times. And
no, they're not. You're
saying they're not.
Lying sometimes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Right. We are glad that you called in. Quickly, Dee is in Delaware. Hi, Dee. You've got about 20 seconds.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to let you know you had a lady talk to you earlier about the SNAP program. We have definitely seen people with those cards buy steak, lobster, shrimp, and potato chips. So, yes, it should be limited.
Some kind of limitation on what they buy.
Yes,
all right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, certainly. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you for the call.
Have a great day.
You too. Quickly, before we have to go here today, this was, of course, on the stack, and completely just mentioning the passing of former Vice President Dick Cheney this week, passing away at the age of 84. According to the statement from his family, he died of complications related to pneumonia and pre-existing cardiovascular disease. Cheney had an extensive history of heart issues. You might remember he had a heart transplant back in 2012. So, of course, just wanted to get that one mentioned here today, and I wish we had more time, but we are out of time. But we would certainly like to thank you for yours. And folks, Jesus Christ is who he said he is, and he is coming again. And blessed are those that love his appearing. Let's keep looking up. God bless you.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Tape Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208. Or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.